Island vibes, baby. Long Island vibes. Your boy, the one and only, the kid, the nonprofit sector connector. This one's called Long Island Changemakers. Front lines, I always say, with my friends, leaders on Long Island, doing the important work, making the change, that value, that improvement for the lives of the folks on the island. Oftentimes, these are my friends from the nonprofit sector. Other times, these are business professionals in the for-profit sector. Sometimes, as I say, these things overlap. Today, my friend, Alison La Ferlita, Executive Director of Nonprofit Resource Hub, owner of Plumbing Copper. So many things we do together. We collab so much, and I was like, dude, you should
gotta do this.
I said it. I was like, dude. Like, just like that. You should be on Long Island Changemakers, man. You're making so much change. And
Thank you.
And I don't mean like at the deli when somebody wants change of a 5. I mean, you're making the world a better place. Sometimes the words just come out, man. You know this.
Well, you know, if they need the change at the deli.
You would make the change too. You got to do, because see,
right.
but that's what a change maker does.
That's right.
When you're needed, you just lean in
adapt ourselves
and do it. What is going on with you?
Nothing. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
You have no idea. We're just getting warmed up.
That's right.
You know, I mean, it's a 3-hour show, so we're going to have a lot to talk about today. You have 3 hours of material planned?
I probably have 24 hours of material.
Isn't that so perfect? Because like I always say, and I say it on my show, when Philanthropy in Focus, when I do that show, and I think I said it to you on the phone earlier, we never run out of words. We always run out of time because there's so many things to talk about. And some of us are more verbose than others, but I try to do my best to make most of the words really worthwhile and impactful. Some people just go on and on for no reason. I think most of my stuff is important. But again, I'm a big Tommy D fan, so that's just how that goes.
Well, you do. You do. I've been with you many times, and I think you're pretty meaningful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Wow. What more? Say more.
I know. I know you'd love this. I think I'm not interviewing you today, right?
No, but it'd be cool. Like if we're gonna say how great I am and all the great stuff I do, I should be on Long Island Changemakers.
Yes, I will interview you.
I'm on every week, actually.
I could do that.
Next time we'll flip it. Today, this is about you. We're gonna shine a light on you, the work you do. We know each other for a handful of years. I remember the first time we met. Do you?
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, do you remember where we were?
I certainly do.
So you remember who introduced us?
Noel
Robb.
That's right.
Who is coming on the show in a couple weeks, our good friend. I was with him the other night, and actually, 2 things. I was with him, and I was like, dude, I just made a connection for you, because I had just given a friend of mine a check who's been on the show, Christine Fitzpatrick, from League of Yes, which is a baseball league, inclusion,
yes,
right?
I know them. Yep.
She's great. I was giving her a check on behalf of the Lindy Lou Foundation in memory of my cousin Linda, the family foundation, the whole thing, and she's going to use some of our money to fix up this shed where it's a concession stand at one of their fields.
Oh, that's cool.
Right, isn't it? So she's like, oh, well, I need signage. I said, I got the guy. Let me get Noel on the phone. And we did a text, and we did like a screenshot, like a selfie. Noel, this is who you got to talk to. He's such a great guy, but he saw a vision for you and I to connect all that time ago because of our connection to the nonprofit sector.
Yes.
At the time, you know, you were doing something with one of the universities, right? You were involved there.
Yeah.
However, I want to hear the whole story. I want to go back. What really even drew you to the work you're doing now? And then we'll get to where we are and the things we do together today.
Well, I think this is the kind of work that a lot of people typically fall into.
Okay.
I did not go to school for nonprofit management. Sure. I actually went to school for TV production. And I had graduated and I was ready to go out and work as a production assistant in TV. And a friend of mine at the time said, there's an association in the city, you should go by the office, because you were allowed to walk into people's offices back then. Yeah. And asked them if any of their members need a PA. And I walked in with my VHS reel ready to go. And they really liked me, and they were like, well, how about you be our Northeast Executive Director for, it was the national office, but the Northeast was located there. And I was like, well, what does that entail? Yeah. And they told me, I said, yeah, I'll do it. And I kind of fell into association management, and it was for a TV Commercial Production Association, which was great. But there was always a component of philanthropy. And I kind of went in and out and through all sorts of different things. I've worked for a number of different associations in my early 20s, and then started working with nonprofits. Yeah. And you know, I come from immigrant parents.
Tell me about that
both
story.
From Ireland. Both my parents were from Ireland.
They were, so you're first generation?
I am.
That I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My parents, if you ever saw the movie Brooklyn, met at a dance similar to the one in Brooklyn in Dublin. And my father said to my mom, and this is in the 1950s, I'm running away. I'm going to go get a job in Toronto. If you want to marry me, I'll take you with me. And
how old are they? Were they like babies, like teenagers?
They were probably like early teens, maybe early 20s. And my mom, in the 1950s, it was unheard of to leave with your boyfriend. You never lived with them prior to. And they moved to Toronto, and they got married there, and their maid of honor and best man were actually 2 Holocaust survivors. And then they came to this country a couple of years later. They had my eldest brother, and they had us, and we were always raised to understand they came here for the opportunities that we were given.
You weren't born in Canada.
No.
When
I was born in New York. There's 5 of us, 4 of us were born in New York. 1 was born in Canada.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, you know, from a very young age, my mom was really progressive. She was very, very committed to becoming a U.S. citizen. But I remember being a kid with her, being age 5, and going through the church parking lot, putting slips under people's windshield wipers about what was going on in Northern Ireland and how people had to pay attention to it. So that was kind of instilled in my being.
So there's that advocacy, that care, all that
awareness, community, so much of it. And but it was never something I thought it was really going to be part of my career. It evolved that way. And I have had really a really beautiful, colorful career where I've gotten to meet so many people. I have worked for organizations and worked with organizations that serve military families. And I've experienced things that I think every citizen should experience. Have you ever seen the homecoming of a submarine?
No, I have not.
And it is the most amazing.
Is that something that happens often that you can
go see? I don't know how often it happens. I was invited. They do it up in Groton, Connecticut, and it is such it's just such ceremony, and it's so much part of the fabric of our nation.
And these are men and women who have been away, so the families are waiting on the pier,
and it's so cool. They put like a giant Hawaiian lei around the submarine.
Do they really?
And they have to acclimate, so it stays, you know, it raises through the water for some time. And they have something called the first kiss, where they pick the woman and man that meet for the first time after being months apart. And the first baby, where somebody will meet their baby that was born while they were deployed.
Oh my goodness.
To me, that says so much about just what our nation was built on, and that really reinvigorated my own sense of pride in our country, and really helped resonate with me why my parents drilled it into our minds, how lucky we were to have these opportunities.
How did I not know you were first generation? That's so interesting.
And I'm also a dual citizen, which is nice.
Of Canada or Ireland? Of Ireland. How did that go?
That's a big process, but I'm happy I did it, and it's part of my heritage, and I'm really proud of it. And but I'm a U.S. citizen first, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, and then I've worked with people in the equestrian world. That's an entirely different world.
I know we've touched upon that. You've only been to Horseability with me once, I think. We did an event.
Only once.
You know, and I will say this, and not to embarrass you, but you know how to put on a party. You always do, and you know about details. You know, and I always realize, like, I know no matter where we're going to be, if it's a nonprofit resource hub event or even a Bayside Business Association event, there's going to be a vase of flowers.
There's always going to be flowers.
There's always going to be flowers.
At minimum.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember, like, we're outside at Horseability at the farm. There's a table. You put a tablecloth out. It's windy, but there were flowers on it. And it's just like, for a guy who doesn't notice detail, because oftentimes these 4 small people and my wife, my children and my wife that live in the house, they sometimes think it's cute to, like, put up a new picture and then see how long it takes me to, like, realize they did it.
Take you?
Right. It depends. I mean, I don't really care about like
the details.
I don't care about them that much, and I do care about my wife and children. I don't care about details. So there's a new picture on the wall. I'll see it eventually, and then I go, oh, that's cool, and then I'll just kind of move on. But they think it's funny, like, oh my God, it's been there a week.
Right.
We've moved the couch, and he doesn't even have a clue that we moved the couch.
Well, I appreciate you then.
I noted that's why I'm saying it stands out for me. That's what I was trying to show, that difference. And that, though, is also your keen eye on detail, and I know that's important to you. So I appreciate it. I notice it, and if I notice it, people who really pay attention to stuff probably see it too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've been so lucky to have such a cool career. One of the things I got to do, actually, and I don't think you even know this, I planned a full-blown concert at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas.
Of course, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. No. And that was so amazing. It was a huge undertaking.
Big headline names and stuff, or?
Martha Wash.
Okay.
It's Raining Men. We had, it was really, well, I've never done it. I did plenty of events.
What was the setup there? Why did you get to do that?
So there's a annual horse show in Las Vegas, and we were doing it to raise money for people who are not necessarily injured on horses, but those who provide services in the equestrian community often don't have the medical coverage that they need. So let's say they're a groom and a horse kicks them and injures them, or it's a trainer or somebody does fall off the horse. We were raising money to help those people. Yeah,
that's really awesome. Were you with me at the Imagine Awards a couple of years ago when that there was a
yes,
because we had a couple of connections to that organization, which I can't. Backstretch, best.
Yes.
Backstretch employee SPST. Was it back? What do they say?
It's best. No, it's
BEST. I think
it's Backstretch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they do for folks who are often, sometimes, I shouldn't say often, I make this assumption, but a lot of the folks who work at the track might not be documented and things like that, so they don't have access to benefits and things.
Well, and the equestrian world is so multifaceted. You know, you have your rodeo, you have English ride. I knew nothing about riding horses, by the way, before I went into that world, and I was terrified of that.
Yeah.
But there are so many different aspects of it.
Horses are great, man. I don't ride them, but I love to go to Horseability. I love to see horses.
Well, and then meeting Lisa Gaddy also.
Sure, yeah, on a pal of mine. Yeah.
I met her many, many years ago, and I really do believe in the healing powers of horses.
Oh my God, forget it.
And I also, you know, I have a son on the spectrum, as you know, and I believe in how horses help not only people with trauma, depression, abuse, but also neurodivergence.
100%.
It is huge, and I'm such a huge proponent of it.
100%. And that's such a, you know, if anybody who's listening, watching, wants to learn more about Horseability, reach out to me, Tommy D at Philanthropy and Focus, phocus.com, because I can get you a tour. I'm on the board of directors there. And it's such a special equine therapy, hippotherapy. There's so much value in that work, whether it be for folks with different abilities, or veterans, or seniors, folks with dementia. I mean, we brought the minis to one of the Alzheimer's associations here on Long Island.
Oh, yeah.
The minis, they're not ponies, everybody, they're minis. They're little. I love those horses. We brought them out. In fact, I had set this whole thing up, and then it was up in the Poconos. And I left the Poconos at 5:30 in the morning to shoot down to the island because I had to see this thing with the minis. And then I did like 2 meetings. I did that, a meeting or 2, and then shot back up to the Poconos just because I couldn't, you know, a little bit of, as they say in the business, fear of missing out. So
I think you.
I have a bit of that.
If that was a diagnosis, I
I don't think it's in a DSM, but if it was, I got it for sure. Yeah, I don't, again, but that one I kind of put together, so that was going to really...
But they are so healing, and especially for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, people, so the thing about it, and I learned this doing some MC work with the Alzheimer's Disease Resource Center, my friend Lauren Vlachos' organization, and the smells, sounds, these things affect us on our brain, even if there's some sort of dementia or cognitive challenges there, where folks can smell the horse or come to the farm, and it brings back memories of 60, 70 years ago that they didn't have. And it's just like, I'm not a neurologist, just in case, since we're talking about backgrounds, I'm not a neurologist.
Me either.
Okay, so, good. That to be, just to say that to say, like, I am very enthusiastic about how much we don't understand about the brain and all this, and I learn things all the time, and I sort of get in that YouTube vortex. And when we did this last thing for Alzheimer's Disease Resource Center, there was a band there, and the band played, and they would stop throughout, and the guy is a doctor, and he was teaching us how sound plays such a impact, or puts such an impact on our brain, and we can connect and different things. And I thought about this, where we're both raising kids, you and I, so some of my kids like to have music on while they're doing their homework, and that's like a thing where people go, no, you can't do that. Now I remember, I should have known all those years ago, when I would have, like, I'd be on the computer and I'd have to be watching a sitcom at the same time. Who knew? Now I know, but who knew then? Because it was never enough. There was never like enough things. Like, I remember as an adult having the TV on and my iPad here, because then I could learn whatever they were talking about. I could Google that too. But maybe we can leave music on in the background, because even when I'm working, I could have some things on, but if I have to listen to pay attention to lyrics, it's going to set me off. So it's just so interesting how the brain works. This we got to hear because of the horses, I think.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about
we can go on
this
all
topic for
different,
days.
Yeah, and there's so much there, you know. So let's go through your career.
So I did quite a bit of event planning. I actually had an event planning company where I did events for nonprofits and associations for some time, and then I had kids.
Yeah.
And when I had kids, I did not want to be on a plane anymore. So that's when I stopped, and I kind of adapted my own sales and decided that I would be an interim ED for different organizations.
How long has that been going on?
Well, I had my son in 2008, so probably around 2011, I was like, okay, this is.
So when you say interim executive director, how did you look at that? Was that like while some organization is in search mode, you would come in and fill in?
Sometimes, or sometimes the truth be told is, and from what you're familiar with my work, is that sometimes organizations are either new or they're small and they want to have somebody that's in there helping run operations smoothly, making sure that the information's getting out there, but they only need somebody part-time. So that's what I often do. Or they're going through transition and they want somebody to help get them through the transition, carry them through the transition. I worked with an organization that was 47 years old and the founder was still on the board of directors and helping them, and it had to rebrand. We kind of had to bring it up into modern day and still be very respectful of the foundation onto which that founder built that organization. So there's quite a few different things that I've done in my career. I think what's most important for me is to be really true to the people that I work for and work with. And I lead with my heart, and I always want to make sure that the people that I work with, they're great, and I'm very, very lucky that they are, but that we're helping make change. I'm working with Nonprofit Resource Hub now, helps make change for almost 500 nonprofits, right?
Yeah, I want to get into that because I don't want to miss out on that. And so being one of the founders of the Nonprofit Resource Hub, gang, if you're watching, nonprofitresourcehub.org, or again, reach out to Tommy D, I'll connect you. Not just because you're sitting here and not just because you're my friend, you're an incredible asset to what we're doing with the Nonprofit Resource Hub. And we'd both be remiss if we don't shout out Kellyanne Serini, our friend, who does an incredible job as what I call our director of marketing. I don't know if that's her official title.
I think it's my work wife.
Work wife? Yeah. Well, I don't think that's an official title either, but go with that.
Thank God we don't have an HR department.
Yes. No, we're too small. Having you at the helm of that organization when we meet as a board with you and with Kelly, it helps, like you say, adapt sales, but it really helps to steer the ship in what we're doing. Some of the stuff you take on, I go, I just can't get in as deep as you do with these things. But you know, when we had these challenges here on Long Island with some of our local elected officials, how do I say this nicely? Incorrectly assessing the value of the sector and incorrectly, in my opinion, assessing compensation of leaders of these organizations. I'll just leave it there. You dug in, became part of a coalition, got very involved, and now, we'll talk about what I just said, but then also even lately in the last 3-4 months, the last 100 or so days, let's just say that, things have become even more challenging for the sector. And in relation with some of our colleagues who lead the organizations, nonprofits, you put together a meeting recently over at Epic, and our friend Lisa Birch was our host, and opened up dialogue with Ken Serini, one of the founders, my business partner Ed Probst, one of the founders of the organization, to educate the sector, but not from the pulpit, but really to have an open dialogue. So talk about how involved you get.
The nonprofit sector is not unionized, right? So there's not a place where all nonprofit leadership can come together to have one voice. I think this was all just a matter of circumstance, how things have been unfolding, and the landscape politically has just really, it started in November with our legislation and legislator out in Suffolk County, but it is now clearly gone national. And the issue is that you are providing services that are critical to not only the support of some of our own community members, but it also impacts the entire community. It impacts your property value. It impacts your quality of life. So we act as sort of that sounding board for the nonprofits, for those leaders. When you're a nonprofit executive director, you're very often caught in a silo because your day-to-day is just nonstop, especially if you're leading a huge human services organization. Oftentimes you are working around the clock into the weekends. People don't realize that. People don't realize the value of what these people bring to the table. They are just as intelligent, if not more, just as skilled, just as talented as a CEO that is running a for-profit organization. The only difference is the tax status, quite frankly. And so to devalue or cap their salary is an insult, because what they're doing is they're not only providing support to those communities that they serve, they're providing support to our entire community. And I think there's a huge misconception. My job is to put the put the education out there and keep the news going. So I'm very deeply immersed in it on a daily to our nonprofits, to bring them, give them opportunities to get together to talk about how can we be one voice. What do we want our messaging to be? And how do we relay that? And what are the tools that we could provide? Nonprofit Resource Hub, what can we provide to support them in that effort? We're not a union, but we are an advocate.
You know, I feel like it's important to say who else has sat in that chair. Our friend Dr. Jeffrey Reynolds has sat in that chair. Our friend and advocate Rebecca Sanin, Suffolk County Legislator Sanin, has sat in that chair. And I, not to be funny or silly about it, I'm very blessed to have friends at these places, and I know I'm valuable to the whole thing too, and I'm grateful for everybody to say that. So I understand it's a give and take, but to have those relationships and to have you sitting here as well, it just goes to show. I mean, I remember being in that hearing out in Suffolk County and being just floored. Dozens and dozens of people coming in, stating our case. You know, you mentioned how these folks work on the weekend. I had Dr. Reynolds in here with me a couple of weeks ago, and he was leaving here on Friday afternoon into the evening to go to an event for Thrive, one of his organizations, a celebration, and then Saturday and Sunday they had a walk and a run and then this. And I mean, these folks work all tirelessly to improve our communities. And how do you see in the future Nonprofit Resource Hub continuing to be, you say sounding board, but also we respond versus react, but we respond to the needs. And that's, you know, you bring great things to us to say, hey, here's the feedback I'm getting from our leadership of our larger and our smaller organizations, board of directors, what do you think about this? So where do you see NRH being in the situation? Like, where do we sit going forward?
You know, I wish I could tell you right now, but I think because things change truly on a day-to-day basis right now, we have to be able to, the best that we can do right now is to be on top of what's coming out, understanding what the implications could be. We are trying to be proactive, not reactive. What I think we could possibly turn into is truly a much bigger, stronger voice for the sector. I think that we could possibly become a much stronger advocate for the sector. The Nonprofit Resource Hub is still a fairly young organization. I think it's also really important what I have learned through this whole process and what has been happening. The average bear does not realize what a nonprofit always is.
The average community person, a person who lives on Main Street. So. No, I agree with you. I'm just trying to
you know, we take it for granted, right? But what would Long Island look like if we didn't have nonprofits? And a lot of times, if you were to ask just somebody who's getting on the train 7 to 7 every day, you know, going into the city doing their job, but maybe are not so plugged into this, you know, when you ask them, when I say, well, what would you do without your library? You know, what would you do without these services that your kids are able to take advantage of? It's not, some people always relate nonprofit to, we'll say, quote unquote, charity. Yeah. It's not, it is community services, it's arts programs, it is so much more than people realize. And without that, you don't have a great quality of life. Without that, you don't have great property value. I think things are often angled towards the wallet. And I think also the big misconception is, you will pay for this one way or another. So, you know, and and sometimes things are spun where your taxes may not actually look like they're being impacted, but they actually will be. You know, you're like your local fire departments. How do they get funded? And funding right now is probably, in my opinion, the most important and critical topic of discussion, because if our large social service organizations do not get the funding that they typically get, it will have a ripple effect throughout all of the community.
There's an organization, I was on the phone, sometimes I'm at my desk very late, and the other night I was at my desk working till 1 o'clock, and around 11:30 at night I got pinged on LinkedIn, and because I'm paying attention, I responded, and this man runs an organization, 12 employees out in Suffolk County, and they serve 100,000 individuals, 12 employee organization. Doesn't matter who it is. He's coming on Philanthropy in Focus in a couple weeks, but the point of the matter is, it does matter who it is, but I'm not telling you.
12 people.
12 people is the point.
People.
That's the point of what I'm trying to say here. And what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? That doesn't make any sense. But what happens if that 12 employee organization gets squashed, right? That's 12 lost jobs, 12 families are hurting. What about the 100,000 people that were coming to the pantry, that were coming to get clothing and getting all the different things? It gets
or the 25. I think don't quote me on the statistic, but I think it's 25,000 people are employed in nonprofit organizations across Long Island.
Yeah, I believe that.
So what happens if they lose their jobs? And these people really care.
Yeah, of course they do.
This is not a job you go into for the money.
No, we know that, and it's a lack of education, like to what the sector does. I want to bring the show to a close because we're running out of time, Allison. This just means I want you to be my regular correspondent. We're going to come up with that. I just made it up, but like once a month we do something like this and we talk about the sector. Maybe it's a little nonprofit resource hub nugget that we do. How can we help the nonprofit resource hub quickly, if you could?
I think if you're a nonprofit organization and you join, it is free for them to join. It's a no-brainer. According to the IRS, there's over 25,000 nonprofits on Long Island. That's the itty-bitties to the big, large ones. We are trying to bring all of them into the fold so we can help represent them, we can help educate them, we can help connect them with trusted sources.
What's the best way for somebody to follow up with the NRH and connect?
Go to nonprofitresourcehub.org, or they can give us a call, and there's a very simple application. It is a tremendous, as somebody who was an executive director for many different nonprofits, it's such an incredible resource for them, and it's cost them nothing.
You, my friend, are a Long Island Changemaker. I don't have a trophy for you, but I get to feature you on the show. I appreciate all we do together. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for being my friend.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it. Your boy, everybody, is here, the one and only, the nonprofit sector connector. The show is called Long Island Changemakers, and this has been another In Focus production. Thanks, everybody.